biggest assets that you see in Brindley to have made that trade?
A few. I think going back to his draft year, he was a high motor, tenacious player that plays with really good pace. So that book has just traveled and followed him to pro hockey. And when we were talking with them, he was a player that our pro scouts just piggybacked onto what our amateur side was seeing, and thought it was a good player that plays the way we like to play.
I know there was a sentiment at the end of the year press conference of running it back with a lot of the same players from this last year. So I imagine moving on from Charlie Coyle was a bit of a shift in thinking. When and where did that decision kind of happen?
Well, you're always assessing, right? We believed in that group tremendously, and still it still stings. I'm not going to lie. Charlie's a big size and strength guy in the middle of the ice, and as the off season has gone on, with no secret that we're in a better spot with sort of a little bit more of a known and hope that Landeskog is going to be in a good spot. So our cap was tight, right? It's still tight for this year, and this was an opportunity to um, loosen it up a little bit. And I think I think we're really excited about that aspect of it. And obviously, it comes at the expense of losing good hockey players and good people. So that wasn't an easy decision, but we felt it was the right one.
A couple of years ago, when the Miles Wood contract was announced, you said something along the lines of giving him more term to lower the AAV. I guess was 2 years the thought process all along, or was this just an opportunity?
Just an opportunity, yeah. Miles, I mean, Miles was a good player for us. We had Landy was going through his injury thing, and Miles is a big body that can skate, and we just felt it was the right time to. And Columbus wanted him, and be a good opportunity for him. So he was a good player for us and a good person for these years. And now we look forward to see what we can do.
Chris, when you guys got the Brock Nelson deal done, obviously you still have more work to do, but a lot of the big parts of your roster were kind of taken care of. Even though you had just a little bit amount of money, how exciting is it for your group to now have still more or less that roster kind of filled out, a couple of small holes to plug? Now, $9 million, close to $9 million to work with right now.
Yeah, I mean it's exciting. That's probably the right word. I mean we've got we still got to find ways to improve in a few key areas. I think we got to qualify Sam Alinsky as one of those guys, and hopefully get something done with him here in the near future. So, but yeah, now that's the focus. Whether it's through trade or July 1, we'll try to find some right fits for the other key parts of the roster.
There have been, I think, a couple teams like Vegas and Tampa come to mind where it's sort of been, I won't call it a trend, but like they load up at the deadline and then end up kind of selling off in the summer because just kind of like manipulating the cap, right? Like you spend more in February than you can in July, et cetera. Have you like kind of dug into that at all and like see that as like kind of a way for you to move forward as we?
No, I mean I think we put our cap space to work at the deadline for sure. I think the teams you mentioned are teams that have been very good teams for a very long time. And I think when you have expectations to try and win, you're going to make decisions on trying to win. And I think that's what we've done. And this year it didn't work. We all still feel the sting of that, but we feel we have a good hockey team and a competitive team, and it just didn't work.
You last one, guys.
Now without Coyle and Wood and OC won't be available to start the year, what are the priorities to round out the bottom six?
Well, we got Bardakov coming over, so we're excited to see what he can do in that mix in training camp. And I think we've got we know what we've got in terms of cap space and roster holes. So you do the math and you try and figure out, okay, what's the average that we can spend, and how do we put it together and make the math work and find out. I think we'll look at anything we can to improve, including the back end. I think the only area really that we're probably set as we sit tonight is in net.
I know at the deadline you went out and got both those centers, and getting better down the middle was a priority. And so trading one away was probably difficult. Are you comfortable with what you have down the middle at this point? If you didn't add anyone?
Yeah, I think Jack Drury's an elite fourth line center, but that he can play a bigger role for us. He's got, under the radar type skill, but what that line did was they were dominant, and if they have to play a bigger role at times, they certainly have shown that that's a line that our coaches can use against any line and at any time. So we're going to try and replicate that in the bottom six as opposed to sort of a third and fourth line moniker. I think we're looking for competitive guys that can play that type of tenacious type of game where we have the puck and hound it when we don't.
There, with the third round pick coming in today's trade, the 77th overall, was
Yep.
that acquired with the thought of like having somebody in mind to pick, or is it an asset and just kind of see what happens?
Yeah, I think it's more the latter. I think it's really hard at that spot to know, what's gonna be there or not be there, and we'll certainly have probably a cluster of guys that we'll be excited about, and you never know, right? Is the phone gonna ring, and but I think now we have options with a third and a fourth to look at. Do we move up? Do we move? Do we want to move back? Do we? I think all sorts of things are potentially there, but we're excited to add that pick. We think there'll be some good options there tomorrow.